new exhibit also opens tonight at Split Rock Lighthouse. It will feature all kinds of stories about Lake Superior. The exhibit will have a full-scale 650-pound replica of the lighthouse's beacon, along with a captain's wheel, from a ship that sank more than 100 years ago, not far from Split Rock. It will also showcase the lives of past lighthouse keepers and stories from Native people who lived in the area for 12,000 years.
We wanted people, when they come through here, to understand that people have always tried to live in or work or control Lake Superior. And so we wanted to tell the Indigenous story that was before us and are still here today.
The exhibit opened tonight for North Shore Community Night at 6 o'clock and it runs through 10. The event has live music, food, and games. There will also light the beacon at 9 o'clock to celebrate.